Jungle. Audio Jungle.
So when I went there in Blawayo this side, it was raining yesterday. So see, the other members that went there first, they assessed the situation. Then they saw that it was tough. So for me, my phone was off. So I went straight to the venue. So when I approached the venue, I saw people outside. They were wearing civilian clothes. So I thought maybe they are with us. They are waiting since it was not time yet. So as I approached, I realized no, these are not normal civilians because they were not smiling, they were serious, and they were only bouncers. I think there were 15 men of them, 15 men. So when I approached there, when I approached the door, they blocked the door. There were three women. They jumped and they surrounded me. The other one stood next to the other side. The other one stood next to the other side. So that's when I realized that no, this is no longer what I was thinking. So this is it. This is them. So quickly they asked me, "Madam, where are you going?" So I also thought that since my face was on that poster circulating, so I thought maybe the way they reacted, I saw that they were really waiting for that face. So they asked me, "Madam." So the other one, he came up front and he said, "Madam, where are you going?" Then I said, "I want to go inside." Then he said, "What do you want to do inside?" Then I said, "I want to see someone." Then he said, "Who is that someone?" Then I just there was just a name that I said I want to see someone called Dumsani at the reception. Then he said, "What does that Dumsani do?" Because I had to change my story because I saw that it was no longer safe for me. Then I said, "No, he works at the reception." But our the facilitator from the regional southern region, he had went inside. He also disguised himself that he want to check the venue, he want to book the place. So when he came out, he realized that I was being interrogated. So he held my hand and he said, "No, it's fine, let's go." But to my surprise, when I realized some of the faces were familiar faces, some of the people that we work them where we work. So I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed. Yeah. So all I can say to the Zimbabweans and the people at large is that what we are fighting is bigger than we think. And I realized that this 2030 is a big project. And all I can say is that the Zanu PF will stop at nothing to protect it. They are ready to defend it and protect it. So if us, we are also saying no, we want to also defend it. I think we need more calculated measures. We need very, very stringent measures that can match their level. So we need all hands on the deck to stop it because when we go to when they are now I will realize that as Prince Dubego say that now they are also trying to ban the elections. So if they ban the elections, the elections are the only way Zimbabweans express themselves. And if I remember very well, there's this other time when President Idi Mnangagwa always say that the voice of the people is the voice of God. So that voice of the people is only heard mostly through elections where they elect their leader. We all know that the people of Zimbabwe, they've spoken and they always speak in every 5 years. They always select their leader, but the outcome becomes something else that we don't even know. So by banning these elections, we are saying, President Itinagaka, what you promised us or what you say that the voice of the people is the voice of God, you are now banning that voice. So who are you leading? What are you doing? Because as the citizens, we are not happy with what is happening. So we are saying, please try and look at what you are doing. Try and look. Don't like you mustn't listen to people that like those guys that are called Zikananda. Those guys, they are in it for themselves. I don't know who is advising him. Like what happened in Parliament? Honestly, you see a whole Parliament for a country doesn't have a backup for lightning, because in other places, other businesses, as soon as ZESA cuts off, the backup plan or the solar is turns on itself. But for something like Parliament, that was very, very embarrassing, and is for the second time. So all I can say to the people of Zimbabwe is that this thing that we are facing is not a small thing, it's a bigger thing, and it has been planned and it has been well calculated. So if we are saying we are defending it or we are rising up, I think we need to stand up more, put more pressure. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much, my sister. For that, I do understand. The frightening situation that you found, yourself in, and finding out that some of the folks, that were part and parcel of that. Well, that could, that is something that is so disheartening. But thank you for adding your voice. Thank you for the reminder that you have given people that this thing, ladies and gentlemen, if it is not resisted, it is bigger than, this thing is bigger. And if it is not, resisted, we are going to find ourselves under a different animal, divorced from what we know, as a people. So thank you very much, for that. I want to move on, but before I move on, can I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, we are over 1,000 here. If you can repost this, it would be very much appreciated. It would be very much appreciated if you can repost. Right now, I can only see the reposts that have been done, 96 reposts, and we're over 1,000 here. um Please, we want your participation in helping others as well to come through and be in a position to hear what the distinguished men and women who are here are saying with regards to the agenda, constitutional crossroads, citizens' response to Zimbabwe's constitutional, crisis. Right, let me move on. Right, Honorable Job Sikhala, you're in and out. I don't know what is going on, but I've got Honorable Tendai Biti. How are you?
Yeah, good evening, Comrade McBelt and fellow Zimbabweans and compatriots.
Thank you very much, for joining us. Thank you very much, for responding. Yesterday, I was looking forward, to hear you make, your full address. But even though I heard you speak, here and there, but I knew that, looking at you and knowing you, I knew that, there's a lot, that you wanted, to say. So I'll give you this opportunity, Honorable Tendai Biti, if you can, speak to us.
Thank you very much, Gerald, and thank you for creating this platform to allow citizens to speak on an issue, the threat to our constitution, which personally I consider the biggest existential threat that our country has faced since independence, probably since Gukura Wundi. This is the threat to turn our country into a monarchy. This is the threat to turn our country into a dynasty, the Mafidi a dynasty. This is a threat to completely privatize our capacity as citizens to fight back. This is a threat to privatize and take away from us our sovereignty, our right to govern ourselves and to leave it monopolized by a cartel, uh, by a clique, and by a syndicate. And the unfortunate thing about this syndicate is that there's been a conflation between the political elite, the political syndicate, and, and a mafia syndicate that has been grabbing Zimbabwean assets legally and extra legally, that is engaged in massive looting through public tenders. So this is the crisis we are facing, a huge, humongous crisis. I think the starting point must be, what is this constitution? This constitution represents an agreement, a compromise between the people of Zimbabwe, which we ratified, which we agreed to in the referendum that was held in March of 2013, in respect of which 93% of the people that voted in that referendum, equivalent to about 3.2 million people, ascended to that new contract, a new constitution. This was after a period of 3 years, 4 years of protracted negotiations between and amongst the Zimbabweans, followed by two very contentious all stakeholders conference. So this was a people-driven process born from public participation, in respect of which there was symbiosis, there was alchemy between the end product and the people of Zimbabwe, in respect of which every Zimbabwean could identify with a certain structure, could identify with a certain principle. So if you are a war veteran, you would have been very proud to know that the preamble of that constitution celebrates the three great chimurengas that we have had. You would have been very pleased to know that the founding values, one of the founding values we have in this country, is the founding values of the liberation struggle. Those of us who came from the democratic polity would have been impressed by articles such as Article 2.1, which says that the Constitution is the supreme law of the country, and any act, conduct, or law inconsistent with the same is invalid to that extent. So we sought to create a new Zimbabwe. We sought to create a new society. We sought to create a new discourse. We sought to create a new consensus. And one of those consensus that we sought was that we did not want to see the presence of an all-powerful authoritarian president, what Prince Duveko has said, an imperial president. So we cut the huge powers that President Mugabe had, which arose after the collapse and conflation in 1987 of the office of the erstwhile normative president in the form of Kenan Banana and the executive prime minister. So this new individual found himself having crown powers and executive powers to create a very powerful imperial president. So one of the things that we sought to deal with in 2013 was this edifice of an imperial president that had been created lazily in 1987 by conflating the crown powers found in the titular president, Comrade Sodindo Banana, and the executive powers of a prime minister. Another thing that we sought to deal with was the issue of power transfer, the issue that the state could not regenerate, the issue that we had a president who had been in power for 34 years and seemed to want to go on forever. And connected to that, inextricably connected to that, was the issue of succession. It was clear that we had a succession battle, just like now. So to deal with these issues, we created the term of office provision, the limited terms of office provision. And if you ask me, what is the most important basic structure of this constitution? It is actually the provision limiting the term of office of the country's chief executive officer, the president. Because 5 years is a very small period of time in one's lifespan. And if we like you and we have to give you another term, 10 years is a very small period in time. What do time limits do? Time limits encourage accountability, because when you are elected in office, you know very soon that you will be a civilian. So you will restrain yourself. You will act with deference. You will act with deterrence. Because one day you are powerful, and the next day you are an ordinary wananchi walking in the streets of Harare or Bulawayo. Another thing to deal with the issue of transfer, we created the issue of the running mates, and we made two of them. So the issue of the unresolved succession issue was settled by creating a running mate to run with the president, to be elected by the president. Of course, this was unpopular in certain circles who saw a running mate as a second descender of power. But what they didn't know was that Zimbabweans were creating a new trajectory of certainty and stability. Because wherever you have succession uncertainty, succession ambiguity, you make inevitable and unavoidable conflict, including, as we saw in 2017, the implosion of a military coup. But our constitution was much more than all these things. There were other things that were dear to citizens, which are still important now. One of them, of course, is the issue of devolution. One of them is the issue of transparency and accountability around our financial resources, codified in sections such as 300 of the Constitution. One of them is the issue of the land question, codified in Chapter 16 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. One of them are the principles of government that you find in Chapter 9 of the Constitution. One of them is the 4 pillars of the Constitution that include the Human Rights Commission, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Gender Commission, the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. These 50 state institutions were meant to create an additional checks and balance to the traditional tripod of power between parliament, executive, and the judiciary. So it was a modern progressive constitution. Now I come to the present threat. ZANU-PF does not have the unilateral right of seeking to amend a basic structure of the constitution, namely the term of office provision. And those of you who are familiar with our constitution, it's not just the president who had terms of office, judges had terms of office. Security sector big chiefs, they've got terms of office. There's a limited terms of office of the commander of the army, the commander of the intelligence, the commissioner general of the police, the commissioner general of prisons, and other. That typifies how we valued this, term office, and we said fine. In section 328, a term of office can be changed, but it can only be changed through a referendum. So, firstly, 2/3 majority in parliament, and then through a referendum. But even if one were to, that constitutional change would not serve the incumbent. So, in other words, we created a disincentive for an incumbent to push for a constitutional amendment that would not benefit him. We then said, if you want, if you're crazy enough and so driven, you hold an insatiable desire for power, you want it to benefit you, you have to go through another referendum. But this referendum and the first referendum cannot be held concurrently. So two separate referendum. That is the law. That is section 327, bracket 7 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Now, they are now trying to cook to create what I've called legal prostitutionalism, dubious legal arguments to deal with and to try and subvert the constitutional provisions that there are terms of office and that you can't avoid them except two referendums. There are three variants of this schism to cheat and facilitate a coup against the constitution of Zimbabwe. The first variant is what you have seen in a document called the Breaking Barriers Initiative. That document proposes that we amend Section 91 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe to allow the president to be elected by parliament and not directly by the people of Zimbabwe. The BBI proposal proposes that we extend the term of office of the current parliament to 2035, not 2030. So, according to the BBI, the next election will be held after 2035. According to this mendacious satanist proposal, the current president, Mr. Mnangagwa, will be deemed to have been elected in terms of the new constitution. And further, these amendments, the BBI amendments, must be implemented before the current president has served 3 years from August of 2023 when he was sworn in as president. The reason why the 3 years are important because our constitution is very clear in section 92 that a full term is 3 years and above. So they want to do this before he reaches 3 years so that they can pretend that he didn't serve any term to justify giving him a blank 5 years that gets you to 2030, meaning that the proponents of the BBI would have wanted to see this constitutional amendment passed and actualized before December of 2025, when the president would have served 2 years and 3 months from August of 2023. Fortunately, it's no longer possible for that proposal because a constitutional bill has to lie in state for a minimum of 90 days, and we are nearing the year end, so that window is passed. The BBI proposal is dangerous because parliamentarians also fall into that category of people with term limits because the term of parliament is fixed in terms of section 143 of the constitution read together with section 158. It's a 5-year term calculated from the day that the president is sworn in to 30 days before the end of a full 5 years. In other words, if we had the election in August of 2023, then 5 years ends in August of 2028, and the election must be held on any day within the 30 days from 23 August 2028. That's the term of office of Parliament. So you would also need a referendum to extend the term of Parliament to either 2030 or to 2035. So it doesn't work. It's a with great respect, a horrible argument that cannot hold water. My biggest disappointment lies in one or two of the individuals associated with this process. I have so much respect for some of them. I shan't mention their names, but I think they've left our people down, which is why I always argue that we cannot trust individuals and we should build institutions on the basis of trust, because you never know how an individual can turn up tomorrow. So that's the first option. The second option that they have, which I suspect is going to be pushed by the Minister of Justice, is just a simple amendment to the Constitution to simply extend, excuse me, the term of office of the President and Parliament to 2030, and then argue that we don't need, we've
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.